care of children through a very good state program. I like state-run, closer to the people.
You talking about CHIP, the one that I worked on?
That you worked on.
That I actually got done?
You actually did.
Yes.
But the health care bill didn't do anything to reduce cost. They didn't want to go and reduce legal cost, frivolous lawsuits, defensive medicine. 10% of healthcare cost is legal, and they wouldn't do anything about that to reduce the cost. Nothing's going down in cost, in spite of my opponent believing that this is going to save our country $1.2 trillion.
Well, it's what independent actuaries said.
And yes, we're going to provide health care to 30, 40, 50 million more people. We're going to do it with no increase in the supply of doctors. We didn't reduce cost, but it's going to save our country money. Part of that health care bill passed on the fact that actuary used 10 years worth of income and only 6 years worth of expenses. I am in favor of funding and properly reforming our existing programs of Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security before we do anything with further entitlements.
Okay, you mentioned Tea Party, and I want to ask you about the Tea Party in a moment. I want to talk to you about a Democratic organization. Okay. We're going to extremes, it seems, this year in this election. We'll be back with Congresswoman Allyson Schwartz and the Republican challenger Dee Adcock right after this on Voice of Reason. Dee Adcock, very successful businessman with a national business, is with us. He's Republican challenging Allyson Schwartz. Allyson Schwartz is here. She's had a successful career in government service and politics for about 19, 20 years now. Dee, before the break, the Congresswoman mentioned the Tea Party. Are you happy to have their support?
Larry, in this race, I need all the support I can get. First of all, I was the endorsed Republican candidate.
Right.
And I have been working hard with the Republican Party in the city, in the suburbs, and I am excited about it. In the county, there's Tea Party patriots in Montgomery County. They don't endorse anyone, but I am looking for all the support I can get. I'm running against a strong incumbent, established politician with lots and lots of money. She has millions, I have thousands. And I'm looking for support from the Republican Party, from the independents, from libertarians, from the Tea Party, and I'm even looking for disgruntled Democrats. I need support everywhere I can get it if I'm going to win this race, and I'm out to win.
Sounds like a reversal of roles here. You know, usually it's the Republican and with millions of dollars. So you funded well, right?
Well, I worked hard, and I do have thousands of supporters, many of whom have contributed to my campaign. I don't have the personal wealth that Dee has. He's put almost $500,000 of his own money into the campaign. So, you know, it's the way he portrays it is, you know, who's the little guy, who's the big guy here is, you know, maybe a little bit different because he's been able to put a lot of his personal wealth.
Now let's talk about we talk about Tea Party. I find, and I don't know, maybe I'm just the only one who thinks this, but I've mentioned this before in conversations, that MoveOn.org, which has some interesting viewpoints on the liberal side, has also been viewed by some Democrats as an extremist organization. What do you think about that group?
Well, I don't know that I want to actually sort of, make strong comments one way or another. They're not, to my knowledge, not at all involved in supporting me in this campaign. And certainly I've been criticized by MoveOn for some of my votes. I identify very strongly as a moderate Democrat in Washington. I am the vice chair of the New Democratic Coalition, which is a group of almost 70 members of Congress who are very in the middle, really work closely with business community and the small business community in particular, feel strongly about technology and innovation and moving ahead.
Would you view Dee as moderate?
No, not at all. I think his positions are really quite extreme, and too extreme for the district. And so I know he feels strongly about his stance on issues, but it's not where most of the district is.
Do you think Congresswoman Schwartz is a moderate?
Well, if you think Nancy Pelosi is moderate and San Francisco is a moderate district, then Congresswoman Schwartz is moderate. Otherwise, since her voting record is right there with Nancy Pelosi, I would have to call her an extreme liberal in a district that is not nearly as liberal as San Francisco.
So I'm correct here.
There you go.
Everybody's going to extremes. Okay.
No,
so
I'm not an extreme.
No, but you're
I'm
saying
a simple
she's
businessman.
You're saying she's an extreme liberal. You're saying he's a right leaning?
Well, his positions, you can look at the positions here. He'll ask the questions. Would he privatize Social Security? Yes. Would he actually go along with the roadmap in terms of dismantling Medicare? Would he actually be mostly focused on protecting the largest corporations in this country to make sure that they don't get any tax break, that they continue to get tax breaks?
Right.
I think so really not. And of course, his
government
position on
business.
choice and on stem cell research and
let's go over
all
it.
of that kind
Let's
of
go
stuff.
over it. You want to privatize Social Security?
No.
You want to
I
offer
provide
options?
options and
Okay.
choices.
Are you?
It's all about
what was
America.
the other thing you mentioned?
Medicare.
Medicare.
Medicare. I'm sorry. It's my opponent that has defunded Medicare by $128 billion. What do you think's going to happen? I just had a friend who works for mainline health systems. He just got laid off because of that bill and because of Medicare specifically. Do you think Medicare is going to be providing more funds?
You
Do
believe in
think
the future
doctors
of
are gonna be-
Medicare? Do you think we should have it?
Do you think doctors are going to be happy that they just took a 20% pay cut?
But should we have Medicare?
Medicare is there. I said clearly we want to make sure that we properly fund and reform the entitlements we presently have before we add anything else. Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. I want to make sure that every individual who is already on it gets all the benefits that they are entitled to. That's my position. That's where I've been. But we need to look toward the future in a bipartisan way to make Social Security financially sound.
Boehner, the House Minority Leader. You like his work?
I don't know his work that much.
Yeah.
I've seen work of Paul Ryan that I find to be interesting
and
at least worth pursuing, as Representative Schwartz said.
Pelosi is the magic word here. She's been out recently in the last couple of weeks a little more. Okay. And I know, first woman Speaker of the House, very, very, very dramatic moment. In fact, I believe I was covering the first State of the Union when she was back in the Bush days, when she introduced the president for the first time. And I know there's a lot of pride about that, but yet this year she's become the attack target, hasn't she?
Yeah, well, she has been demonized by the Republicans. There's part of me that wonders it's because she's such a strong woman. But let me say this, is that when Dee says that, that Speaker Pelosi is really liberal, she represents San Francisco. Well, that may be true, but the fact is that she's also the Speaker of the House and she is the leader of our caucus, and she has worked very hard and to actually really consider all the views within the Democratic caucus, and they're pretty wide views ideologically. Again, I'll say that, and she'll admit it, she was for single payer. We didn't do that. I was one of the people who said, we're not going to do that. We have to work with the private sector for health care.
Okay.
So she may be more liberal than I am. I think she is. But I've worked very hard to make sure that what we do, the challenges we have tackled, and we have, and that's our job as legislators, is to tackle some of these challenges, to find a common ground, the middle of the roadway, that we can work with the private sector. There were certainly people much more liberal than I who wanted big government programs in terms of jobs. And I said, no, we have to stimulate the private sector, small businesses. We passed 18 different tax breaks for small businesses so they can hire people, they can and can do the job that we want them to do in driving this economy
forward. I got a big sigh over here. What's going on?
Come on. Government has done nothing but grow for the last 2 years, and we've grown our budgets, we've grown our spending, we've got trillion-dollar deficits, we've got debt that is piling up. This is what I'm concerned about.
So you would oppose
for our kids.
Well, Bush, actually, if you look at the history, Clinton leaves office, deficit's gone.
Yes.
And the wars, of course, contributed to that. But Bush
Yes.
was the guy who drove up the deficit almost as much as Obama, I think. I'm not sure. I don't know.
No, absolutely not.
No.
It was 4 years ago, the deficit was $150 billion. Representative Schwartz said, oh, that's outrageous. It's totally unacceptable. 3 years later, it's 10 times that. And speaking of budgets, we don't have one. The largest institution in the world, the U.S. government, does not have a budget. Talk about clarity, visibility, transparency. I think the country should have a budget. Representative Schwartz is vice chair of the Budget Committee, but the United States government doesn't have a budget. And how can you hold accounting, spending, accountability?
So you think we need a CEO in Congress?
I think we need a CEO in Congress, maybe a few of them.
You know, let me just say, I know we're probably running out of time here, is that those facts are not right. And I think that you have to be able to be sure you know what the facts are. And we did see the Bush administration they spent more money. They spent money we didn't have. They raised the national debt to outrageous numbers. We inherited a $1.3 trillion deficit for the year that Bush left office.
But it's bigger now.
It's the same. Actually, it's the same. And look, we're getting serious about that. I do believe that we have to move towards a balanced budget. And we have tried to get serious, and we have gotten serious on paying for our spending. But we can't actually. When my opponent says we have to get serious about this, but then wants to actually just spend money, it sort of just doesn't work that way.
I don't want to spend money, and I don't think we can spend our way to prosperity or spend our way out of debt, as my opponent does.
Okay, we got about 30 seconds left, and I'm sorry, but just a few words on why you should be re-elected. Real fast.
Yeah, well, I've been working hard for Northeast Philadelphia, Eastern Montgomery County, trying to meet the challenges ahead, move this economy and jobs, and I fight for those families my families in my district every day. I want to keep doing it.
A few seconds.
We got to get the economy going. We need business people there. We need a lot of different people there to control the government, control spending, and move back toward a balanced budget in reality.
Great time control by both candidates. Thanks to Dee Adcock, the Republican challenger, and Congresswoman Allyson Schwartz, the Democrat. Thanks for watching us. You can reach me at Twitter, LarryKane.com. Please write to us about the election, and don't forget to vote on November 2nd. That's an important day.
Larry, you stay